make the Gemstone Leaf Pendant Necklace, the first thing you need is a piece of silk jewelry cording. Ours is 42 inches long. You'll also need a piece of silk ribbon. This one is olive green and we have a 6-inch piece. Then you need our featured bead, which is this beautiful faceted gemstone. It's a citrine and it's 18 millimeters by 25 millimeters. We'll put it all together on a gold ring that's 17 millimeters. Then we have two really fun leaf charms. They're both gold. This one is 44 millimeters and this one is 30 millimeters. And these charms came with a jump ring attached. For tools, we've got chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and wire cutters. We also have scissors. And finally, we have craft wire. This is 24 gauge craft wire and it's gold. To make the pendant, the first thing we're going to do is make a connector featuring this beautiful gemstone. And to do that, we're going to start with a piece of wire. I went ahead and cut a 4-inch piece of our gold wire here. And we're going to make a wrapped loop at one end of the wire. To do that, I've got my round nose pliers here, and I'm going to come about halfway down the 4-inch piece of wire, and I'm going to make a 90-degree bend in the wire. And this is the start of our wrapped loop. Now we want our wrapped loop to be big enough to feed our beautiful cording through 2 times. So that means I need to make a pretty big loop. So I'm going to go all the way down my pliers to make the loop. So I'm coming all the way down the pliers and I'm going to bend that wire up and over the fattest part of my round nose pliers. Then I'm going to reposition the pliers to the bottom of my pliers and I'm going to pull that loop around. There we go. So now we've got a loop and I'm going to go ahead and grasp that loop across with my pliers and I'm going to pull the tail around the neck of the wire 2 times, and that's my wrapped loop. And I'm going to use my wire cutters to just trim that little end right there, and I'm using the flat side of my pliers to cut that little end. I'm going to cut it a little bit closer there. I think I'm being overly careful because I don't want to cut through my work. So now I've got one loop at one end, and I'm going to feed my gemstone onto my wrapped loop. So we'll slide on our gemstone, and now we want to make a wrapped loop at this end of the wire using our round nose pliers again. So I'm going to grasp the wire right next to the gemstone. I'm going to bend the wire 90 degrees. I'm going to reposition the pliers so that I'm grasping the wire like right kind of in the middle of my pliers this time, because I don't need the loop to be as big as this end of the pliers. I'm going to go right in the middle because we do need this loop to be big enough to go around that ring. So kind of a medium-sized loop this time. So now I've repositioned to the bottom jaw of my pliers and finished wrapping the loop around. But before I wrap the loop, I'm going to feed in my ring into that little, nestle it into that little loop there. You have to just sort of wiggle it to get it to go in like that. And now I'm going to use my round nose pliers again. I'm going to grasp where the wires are sort of crisscrossing there. And then I'm going to wrap the loop. And what that does is it will lock it in place so that the ring will never come off. To do that, I'm going to pull the wire that's the tail around this neck 2 times, like that. And now I want to trim that little end with my wire cutters, like that. Got a little bit of an end sticking up there. So it's always a good idea to just take your chain nose pliers and just press a little end down if you end up with a little pokey outy end. I think it's safer and a better idea to do that than to cut too close to your work, because you could end up cutting right through it and then you have to redo it. And that's a pain. You can also use your chain nose pliers to press your loops together a little bit if you want. There we go. So now we've got our pendant started. We've got our gemstone with our wrapped loops and our ring. And now what we want to do is attach the leaves to our ring. And to do that, we're going to open and close the jump rings that are attached to these leaves here because they came with jump rings. I'm going to use 2 pliers to open my jump ring. This is something we like to do. I'm going to use my pliers to sort of rotate around and find where the cut is in that ring. Do you see there's a little bit of a cut that makes this a cut jump ring, an open jump ring? I'm going to grasp one side of that cut with one pair of pliers. Then I'm going to grasp the other side of the cut with another pair of pliers, and I'm going to rotate one down and one up. And what that does is it keeps that perfect circle of our jump ring, and it keeps its shape, which is super important. So now what I can do is feed on my ring here. This is a little bit tricky. I'm going to grasp one side of my jump ring again, trying not to let that leaf fall off. I'm grasping the other side of my jump ring, and I'm going to do the reverse of what I just did, which is rotate to close. And now we want to do the same thing to attach our other leaf. So here's our jump ring. I'm going to see if I can find that split. You can sometimes feel it with your fingernail. I'm grasping one side of that split on the jump ring with one pair of pliers, and I'm using my other pair of pliers to grasp the other side, and I'm going to rotate one down and one up. And now we can feed that ring in. And I want the smaller leaf on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and feed that through like that. And now I can close that ring just like I opened it with two pliers. Again, it's a little bit tricky with all this stuff dangling off the ring, but you just take your time. And I'm going to grasp the jump ring on one side with one pair of pliers, and grasp the other side of that cut with the other pliers, and then rotate to close. So now we've got both of our leaves dangling from our ring here, and we thought it would be fun to add a little bit of color by putting a piece of our green silk cord on one side, or silk ribbon, and then we're going to put teal and green on the other side of our ring. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're basically going to tie this piece on using a little cow hitch, and this is super easy. What you do is fold this ribbon in half, and then I like the little loop to sit on the front of the ring, so I'm going to hold that loop on the front of the ring, and I'm going to feed these two ends around the back of the ring and then pull them through. It sounds more complicated than it is. I've got the two ends. I hope you can see this. It's a little tricky to show it because this silk ribbon has a mind of its own. But here are my two ends coming through, and then I'm going to pull it, and it makes a little cute cow hitch. And what this will do is leave like little fringy ends and just be sort of fun and playful. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. These pieces are 3-inch pieces that we cut. We just thought that that length seemed nice. I'm going to do another green on this side, and I'm going to add a teal also, but I'll do the green one first. So again, I folded it in half. I made a little loop. I'm going to feed these ends around the back of my ring. And it's okay if those ends aren't perfectly lined up. The idea is just to have a little fringy end. So then I pull it tight, and there's my other cute little cow hitch there. And this ribbon will sit on either side like that, but I want to add the teal cording also. I think I'm going to put it on this side next to the smaller leaf. So I've got a 3-inch piece of my teal cording here. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to hold that loop on the front. I think I'm going to put the greens on the outside like that. So I'm going to actually put the teal one here. And I'm just going to hold it in place and then feed these ends around the back of the ring and through the middle. And now I'll just pull that tight. And this is a little bit thicker, so I'm going to kind of hold it to pull it. So now you see we've got our fun little playful ends on our pendant. And next we'll turn this into a necklace. Now we're ready to turn our pendant into a necklace. And to do that, we're going to tie on a beautiful piece of our silk cording here. And this silk cording is basically a long piece of silk fabric that is coiled and then stitched into like a kind of a tube of silk fabric. Super pretty. We love that it has a lot of body. What I'm going to do is match up the ends so I can find the middle of my cord. Here's the middle. And I'm going to do a cow hitch through this loop that we made, just like we did before. And I want the little loop part of my cow hitch to sit on the front. So I'm going to feed the loop through. This is like a trial and error thing. You do this once or twice and you figure it out. That if you feed the folded piece through the loop like that and then pull the ends through, it will make a cow hitch that has the little loop part on the front. That's what we want. So there's our cow hitch, and I want to make sure that that cow hitch is sitting up on top of the loop that we made and not slipping down over the loop. And I'm going to go ahead and make an extra knot on top of that because we want it to have a little more visual weight. To do that, I'm just going to make a loop with both cords right next to that cow hitch, feed the ends through that, and then just pull that knot down toward the other knot. And that'll just give it a little extra visual weight. And now we're going to make a sliding knot clasp at the end. So I'm going to slide down to the ends of my cords here. And basically I'm going to have a cord that I'm going to call the right cord and the left cord. I'm going to take the end of the right cord, come down about 5 inches on the left cord, and just wrap that end around and make a loop. Now I'm going to ignore that left cord, pretend like it's not even there because it'll just confuse you. Here's my loop, here's my crisscross. I'm going to feed that end through the loop 2 times. And this is what's called a double overhand knot. And it's just sort of a pretty knot, and it also will just slide nicely, and we just like how it looks. So I'm going to pull it tight, but not too tight because we want it to be able to slide. So there's one of my knots. And now I want to do the same thing with this end, but I want to tie it around the right cord. And to find which one is the right cord, you can see which one is slipping. That's the one that's the right cord. So I'm going to take the end of my left cord. I'm going to wrap it around the other strand, like this. And I'm going to ignore that piece again, like we did on the other side. Here's my crisscross. I'm going to feed the end through the loop 2 times, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to pull that tight. Now you can see I've got a sliding knot clasp. And what that means is if you want to wear the necklace long, you can pull it so the knots are touching each other like that. Or if you want to wear the necklace short, you can pull the knots apart, just sort of slide them on the cord like that. And you can pull them, I mean, you really could wear it super short by pulling the knots apart like that. And I'm actually going to make sure these ends are about the same length. One of them's a tiny bit longer. So I'll just trim the one that's a little bit longer, like that. And again, you can see our sliding knot clasp. Super cool. And there is our beautiful gemstone leaf pendant necklace.